Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us across the fence. I'm Keith Silva. Today we've got a potpourri of stories, starting with a bad bug. There's been an invasion of armyworms along Route 104 in the areas around Fairfax, Cambridge, and Jeffersonville. The good news is UVM Extension's Northwest Crops and Soils program has been battling these bugs and has advice and control options. Here's UVM Extension agronomist Heather Darby.
Armyworm moths blow up from the south in storms and wind currents, and the other one is cutworms. Both of those travel from the south, and when the moths arrive in Vermont, they look for green fields to lay eggs. So once those eggs hatch, then the armyworms are born, and they start feeding on the crops. So the more moths that come up, the more armyworms there are. And this year, in some cases, in some fields, it was quite devastating.
Those green fields where the moths lay their eggs factors into the infestation. At the urging of Darby and others, farmers have been planting more winter cover crops, which for the moths is like setting the dinner table.
You'll find a few armyworms in most fields, even in any given year. But an actual outbreak generally can be pretty localized, very spotty. And so where we've seen outbreaks this year are in high residue fields. So if there was a winter rye cover crop growing and then that was terminated and corn was planted no-till into the field, then the armyworms found that appealing and they laid eggs there. So that's where we've seen most of our outbreaks this year. There's more no-till and more cover crops throughout Vermont. We have a strong initiative to have farmers using less tillage and covering the ground through the winter. And with that can bring these other challenges in certain years. It's generally not very predictable when we'll have an armyworm outbreak.
If you find armyworms, contact Darby and the UVM Extension immediately. The contact information is on your screen. If there's one word to describe the summer of 2023, it's wet. While we may not be able to control the weather, we can control where the water goes. In this video from Lake Champlain Seagrant, we learn the story of A Tale of Two Gutters.
Rain falls on the land and does many good things, but can also cause problems. Mark Companion is a green infrastructure outreach professional with the Lake Champlain Seagrant Program at the University of Vermont.
We all live in a watershed, which means that rain falls over many different types of surfaces on its way to streams, lakes, rivers, and eventually the ocean. Along its journey, that rain flows over many kinds of surfaces that include forests, manicured lawns, and even the built environment such as streets, driveways, and parking lots. Each of these different types of lands have different abilities to deal with the water.
Let's look at rain events as a tale of two gutters. In our examples, rain flowing down each gutter has a different fate. In the first gutter, rain empties onto a lawn in a more natural system. The second gutter empties onto an impervious or waterproof surface, like a driveway or parking lot.
In the lawn gutter system, rain can be soaked up by the soil, which acts similar to a sponge, and some soils are better at soaking up the rain than others. Vegetation slows down the rain, spreads it out, and filters it of debris and sediment. Taller vegetation does a much better job at filtering than does short vegetation like a manicured lawn. Thus, there's less pollution and water volume reaching our streams and lakes. This results in better water quality and improved ecosystem health.
In our second tale, water flows from the roof gutter onto a driveway. The driveway, like other parts of our built environment, passes that flow of water on. This rainfall may be causing problems.
Unlike in nature, our communities have impervious surfaces such as driveways, streets, and parking lots that do not soak up rainwater very well. Rain flows very quickly over these surfaces, picking up debris and trash and plastic, as well as oil drippings and fluids from cars that do not get filtered out as they would in a natural system. These pollutants can cause algal blooms, which can close beaches and cause other problems for ecosystem health. The increased volume of the water flowing can also create scouring and erosion, which can jeopardize the health of streams and rivers.
Lake Champlain is a natural treasure. We all have a part to play in protecting it through natural and human-made environments and the waters that drain to it, now and into the future. This video was produced by Lake Champlain Seagrant, a partnership among the University of Vermont, SUNY Plattsburgh, and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. To learn more about Lake Champlain Seagrant and to see other videos in this series, please visit our website.
Our last story today was produced, shot, and edited by Caleb May, a junior at the University of Vermont. Caleb was working as an intern for Across the Fence when he heard about a one-of-a-kind UVM club that involves chainsaws, axes, and cookies of several sizes.
Slightly removed from the hustle and bustle of the heart of UVM's campus lies the George D. Aiken Forestry Sciences Lab. Besides its role in ongoing research, it also plays host to one of UVM's more unique club sports.
So Timbersports is a club sport, and we compete in a bunch of events based off of old logging skills. So we do like crosscut sawing, bow sawing, some chainsaw events, lots of different chopping events, and some other timber sports events sprinkled in there. It varies depending on what meet we go to.
The rules of soccer, basketball, and football might be common knowledge. Timber sports is a different cut. The competition typically starts with an event known as pulping.
So it's a pulp pit. We have 4 logs, and it's a team event. We have teams of 6 at meets, so that means team events means all 6 of them are competing in it. You got to chuck logs back and forth from the pit, and they have to land in between the stakes to get points.
Next comes the chopping events.
So behind me is underhand. It is one of our 2 chopping events. It's underhand and then vert, which is in the same stand as cookie stack. The goal for both of them is the same. You chop at a 45-degree angle V on one side and then switch to the back and sever through.
Finally, the cutting events, which includes a favorite of UVM Timbersports, crosscut.
Yeah, crosscut, it's a standard event. That is probably it's like the meat and potatoes of the team. That's what everyone does. For team events, it's usually you and a partner cut through 2 cookies. For team events, it's somewhere from like 6 cookies to 9 cookies, 12 at our upcoming meet. Yeah, and it's just our 2-person saw. It's the saws pretty much stay the same through the centuries. And yeah, it's one of our favorites.
Another favorite event, burling, requires participants to balance on a floating log. And then, of course, there's axe throwing. Contestants receive points based on their axe's proximity to the center of the target. Cookie stack, or disc stack, is where a contestant attempts to cut as many cookies or slices of wood as they can in 1 minute. Members of the team do more than practice. UVM competes against other colleges and universities.
We compete against the ones in the Northeast, so we go to New York quite a bit. We also compete against schools in New Hampshire. We're the only timber sports team in Vermont, but we compete against some in Connecticut as well.
Competition branches beyond the confines of the Green Mountain State, which comes with its fair share of challenges.
I think a lot of it is that we are just a club sport. We're a pretty new-ish team. We kind of restarted in 2015. We don't have a coach. We're not a varsity sport, unlike a lot of other teams we face. It is all student-run, which means that us as club signers, president, vice president, treasurer, we kind of are in charge of all of the paperwork, all of the resources, all of the budget spending. We kind of have to do everything as students. So that is one thing we do run up against is we have to buy wood, we have to put in all the paperwork for meets, we have to let's go. We have to, run practice. It is all student run, so that does stretch a little bit thin.
Despite the logistical and budgetary difficulties, the team is able to bring a somewhat underground sport to the UVM community.
We provide everything that you need. You just show up in pants and closed-toed shoes, preferably work boots, and then we have everything else, which is awesome because it's a super niche sport. Most people haven't really heard of it before. And all the equipment is pretty expensive, so some of these saws are pretty pricey, and it would be a huge barrier to entry if people had to provide that themselves.
Apart from the fun of hurling axes and cutting cookies, the UVM team also enjoys the more spiritual and rewarding aspects to the sport.
When applying to UVM, I got an email about different club sports at UVM. I was searching through everything, and I just saw Timbersports. And I'm like, that seems like the most Vermont thing I could possibly do at UVM. Initially, I think the first week of school, they had an axe throwing demo out on the Davis Green. So I went to that, and that was a lot of fun. And then, yeah, I just came here.
I love the team and I love the sport. I'm a competitive person, so I like having a place to let that competitive energy go. But the biggest thing is definitely the community that the team has. All these people on the team are like my best friends, and we come to practice every day, and we enjoy spending time at practice, but then we go out and we do stuff outside of practice too. So definitely is a big community, and I'm thankful for it.
It's an awesome group of people, super unique to UVM. I don't know, I just instantly felt welcomed when I came here, and it's just such a fun, unique group of people that don't really fit the vibe all the time, but it's super cool.
Our team specifically, just has a really good attitude about it, where we want to be competitive, but it's really more just about pushing each other to do our best than being the best people out there.
All my friends are through the team. This is where I have made a lot of connections. It's where I spend a lot of my free time, and I just really love it. I love being on the team and competing and coming to practice almost every day when I can. Yeah, I have a great time here, and I wouldn't, change it going back.
In Burlington, I'm Caleb May with Across the Fence.
Thank you, Caleb, and thanks to the members of UVM Timbersports. Follow them on Instagram to learn more about this sport that's a cut above. That's the end of today's program, but not my last pun. I want to shout out everyone here at WCAX for making this program possible, and as always, thank you for stopping by Across the Fence.